Hey guys, welcome back to Browntable Reviews, and today we are going to be reviewing X-Men Apocalypse. So of course, the X-Men franchise has been going on for a long time, and today we are in another entry of the saga, and this is supposed to close off the trilogy that started with First Class and continued with Days of Future Past, which those two are arguably the better X-Men movies, that and X2. So how does X-Men Apocalypse fare? X-Men Apocalypse is a movie directed by Bryan Singer, and it stars James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, and Oscar Isaac. So the plot of this movie, which is a little convoluted, is basically this ancient mutant, like basically the first mutant ever, is reawakened. This guy's name is Apocalypse, and he decides to bring 4 followers with him. These 4 followers are Storm, Psylocke, Magneto, and of course Angel. So now Professor Charles Xavier with Mystique must unite the X-Men again to fight this impending doom. James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender are back, and they are the best actors in this movie, period. They're the best. The two of them, whenever they share screen together, which is very little in this movie, they're just flat out magic. But even if they're separated, it's just great because these two characters, these two actors, their characters are just so compelling and so fascinating, especially Magneto's character. And in the first act of the movie, Magneto's character, Eric Lensher, goes through this terrible thing, and it's just some of the best acting you'll see ever in an X-Men movie, and that scene is one of the best scenes in an X-Men movie just ever. It's just great. That scene actually rivals Magneto killing Sebastian Shaw in X-Men First Class. It's that good. Sadly, we also have Jennifer Lawrence back as Mystique, and even though she's a great actress and all, and I love her, I saw Joy was fantastic, I am so tired of her in these movies. So Mystique here, it's really ridiculous. She's a lot less blue, and it's explained in the weirdest way. It just doesn't make any sense, especially when she was going from First Class to Days of Future Past to Apocalypse. It's like step 1, step 2, no step 3, let's retread a few steps and relearn it again. It's just kind of ridiculous. It makes no sense. Now we're going to talk about the most disappointing aspect in this movie, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse. Oscar Isaac, great actor, Star Wars, Ex Machina, great, but as Apocalypse, the writing here was not very good at all. You see, with Apocalypse, his motivations aren't as fully developed as, the usual villains. Magneto has better motivations, we'll get to that later, but his motivations is basically world domination or world destruction. We don't really ever completely understand what he wants, but it's like he wants basically to rule the world, and from what's destroyed, from the rubble, he wants to create a new world for powerful mutants and all that. But it's why do you really want to do that? And whenever you're writing a villain, you always want to try and make him the most relatable you can, because the audience still has to feel something for the villain, and that's what a good villain is. Let's compare Loki to Malekith. Loki is this conflicted individual who just wants to rule because he's never been given the chance, and he's adopted, and he wants to be able to, finally be king for once because he's never given that opportunity. Even his father's no, right? But then Malekith, for example, it's okay, he just wants to destroy everything. I can't. That was a really bad example because I can't even remember Thor: The Dark World, sorry. Alright, so what about Bucky? Bucky, he was a villain in Winter Soldier. Why? It's a conflicted individual, and it's relatable. It's you can understand why this is happening, why he's having conflict with Captain America, because he's been brainwashed, but he's still his friend, and you feel for this character. And in the final fight between Bucky and Cap, this really emotional scene, but in X-Men Apocalypse, this doesn't happen because Apocalypse is not really fleshed out at all. The past X-Men movies have done this a lot better, handling the villain. X-Men movies usually have the best villains, I'm not gonna lie. Up till now, they've had, amazing villains that none of them have been really, really bad at all. We have Magneto and Xavier, really just, they were brothers and then they separate and now they're bad guys, and there's always a conflict there whenever they face each other. We have Wolverine and Stryker, the conflict between them, Stryker experimented on Wolverine, and Wolverine wanting to know his past, and this entire thing where it's you are basically my creator, but I want to destroy you. It's this entire conflict there, right? Even Eric Lensher, Magneto, and Sebastian Shaw, that was a great conflict because we have Sebastian Shaw, who's kind of like the cliche, I want to rule the world thing, but here's the key. He actually has a relationship with one of the characters, and that does not happen in X-Men Apocalypse. You see, Sebastian Shaw murdered Magneto's mother, and now Magneto has a motivation to go and attack Sebastian Shaw. And Sebastian Shaw, he sees basically Magneto as his son. And it's this kind of crazy conflict, right? And it's this conflict between, in X-Men First Class, this conflict between Sebastian Shaw and Magneto and Xavier. And it's this like triangle of just, whoa. And that does not happen in X-Men Apocalypse because Apocalypse is not really rooted down to any of the characters. He's just this baddie for everyone to fight. And he never really has like an emotional scene with anything. Now, Ty Sheridan, Cody Smith-McPhee, and Sophie Turner are great. Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Jean Grey are all handled amazingly. Thank God they exist here, I mean seriously, because they finally did justice to the original X-Men, I'm not gonna lie here. Especially Cyclops, because he actually feels like a character now. He's not a tool, he's not just like this leader, he's gonna blast some stuff. No, he actually feels like a character because, you know, he has, you know, relationships with other characters, his brother Havoc, and everything, and he has this really powerful moment in the movie, and even though it's kind of handled badly in the movie, his acting is still great, and it's just fantastic. Jean Grey also, learning to control her powers is great, and Nightcrawler, you know, even though he's mostly there for comedy relief, he's, you know, he's fast, he's agile, he knows what he's doing, and he's funny, and he's kind of bumbling a little bit, but he's, you know, he's Nightcrawler from the comics, and it's great. And, you know, this is a young version of Nightcrawler, and a young version of Cyclops, and a young version of Jean Grey. So they're all obviously going to grow into these characters, but it is great to see them from the start here. And at the end of the movie, you can see where they're finally going, and it's fantastic to see. So, spoilers, Cyclops kind of has an arc in this movie, right? He sees himself as a follower at the beginning, and at the end, he's supposed to become like a leader. But that never kind of really happens. And why is because, well, there's just so many other subplots going on in this freaking movie. We have Apocalypse, you know, that's the main plot. But we also have, you know, Magneto becoming good, Quicksilver being freaking Magneto's son, Mystique relearning what it means to be a mutant. I mean, what the heck? And then we also have Jean becoming Phoenix, which I thought that was handled well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but you're kind of left wanting more, especially from Cyclops, because he's supposed to become this leader. And that never really happens. Even at the end, he never kind of leads anything. He's just kind of, you know, there as a presence, and then he just shoots stuff. And, I mean, there was a scene where Beast actually led Cyclops, and I'm like, really? You couldn't have just written that the other way around? Maybe just a little bit. Come on, man. But at least in some points, you see Cyclops kind of as this, you know, main figure of what the X-Men symbolizes, you know? And that's great about it. I like that. Now, something else, Wolverine in this movie was freaking great. I mean, how can someone not like that cameo? How can someone not love the cameo? Because that cameo is, like, better than all of his other cameos, by the way. And it's great because he goes berserk and he actually acts like the Wolverine from the comics, and it's violent and it's gritty. And he's just, like, slashing people with, like, you know, his blades, and he's just... And it's like, oh my god! And it's so well handled. The choreography is great, the lighting is great, and it's just everything. He looks super agile and like feral, and when he slashes people, there's blood spraying on the wall, and you're like, that is the Wolverine that we were supposed to get from the start, and we're so happy to see it, yes. And now I am super excited for the Wolverine 3, because that Wolverine is what I've been looking for the entire time. Also, something that's intense, the opening of this movie, my god, like, just, you know, there's this mutant power that just, like, grabbed the guy and just crushed him like a ball. That was disturbing as hell. Oh, real quick about Angel, how he dies is this stupidest way, like, anyone could think of, right? Because, you know, Angel, he busted out of that cage that Nightcrawler put him in with his wings, his metal wings, so they can obviously cut through things, right? But then, he's on a plane in the sky, right? And, you know, Angel has wings, by the way, if you didn't know, right? So, Psylocke just, you know, jumps off the roof of the plane and, like, actually lands somehow perfectly fine. I mean, she crashes down, but she's, like, fine. She gets, like, her blade and just and slides down the building. And Angel, someone who has freaking wings, can't fly out of a plane? I mean, what? And then lastly, the plane crashes, and I'm just left wondering, did they really just kill Angel? What saves it, though, is that at the credits, it says Angel. It doesn't say Warren Worthington / Angel, which means that maybe this Angel that we saw in the movie is not the real Angel. Which means there's, like, freaking 3 Angels in, like, the X-Men universe. There's Angel the chick, Angel this guy, that was the follower, and then the third Angel, which is, like, the real Warren Worthington, which came out in X-Men 3, and it's so goddamn confusing. And this is gonna get ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. This movie's plot is ridiculous. Okay, so Apocalypse says he wants to destroy the world, right? And from its ashes, rebuild a new one, right? Okay, so why instead of, you know, launching all the nukes into space and leaving them there in space, and basically saving the world from, like, nuclear Armageddon, why didn't you just send the nukes back to Earth and explode the world? Even dumber, Charles Xavier tells Havoc, we gotta destroy Cerebro because if not, Apocalypse is gonna launch all the nukes into space and save us from nuclear Armageddon. So it's like, why do you have to destroy Cerebro? He's kind of doing you a favor, don't you think? It's almost as stupid as Superman 4 when Superman just throws all the nukes into space. It's ridiculous. Okay, so if you're not gonna destroy the world with nukes, right? Why destroy the world by taking all the metal from the Earth and just kind of destroying the surface of it? Why didn't you just nuke the world? It doesn't make any sense. And then even worse, Apocalypse wants to transfer his mind into Charles Xavier's mind to get like a new body and get this new power of controlling people's minds, right? But then, why would he want to control people's minds if the entire world is gonna be destroyed because Magneto's pulling the metal from the surface? It's like, are you gonna destroy the world? Are you gonna kill everyone? If you're gonna kill everyone, then why do you need to control people's minds? What are you doing, Apocalypse? Alright, so let's talk about something good, right? Quicksilver Scene in this movie was great. It was a little bit too long, but it was just fantastic. It was funny. It was not as good as Time in a Bottle, but it was great. Well handled. I love how they used phantom cameras to actually get everything practically, and they didn't have to use CGI too much. Great idea. I actually liked how there was an actual fight with Apocalypse, which was Quicksilver beating the crap out of Apocalypse. That was an actual fight. I really wanted to see Apocalypse kind of fight all the X-Men at once and be like, oh, I'm gonna shoot you with this, I'm gonna use this power to destroy you, and I'm gonna use fire to destroy this, then I'm gonna teleport over here. I wanted an Apocalypse that could actually hold his own, and not just be like this thing that can, take damage and just be like, oh, I can take all this damage, I don't care, boom, you're destroyed, haha, it's kind of boring, I really wanted him to feel like an actual threat, while still, feeling pain and being like, oh, these guys are tough, I just gotta be stronger, and boom, boom, shooting things, like, it was just a really, really missed opportunity with him, and at the end it just became this, like, fight, not really a fight, it's just like this thing where it's like, blast him with all the energy you have, and it's like, why? That's lame. Why don't you have an actual physical altercation with a character, which is great to see with Xavier fighting Apocalypse, right? And that was great, but it was just too short. I mean, Apocalypse, like, whooped his ass in, like, 5 seconds. Like, come on, man. Alright, guys, so I'm gonna have to give X-Men Apocalypse a 3 out of 5 stars. So thank you guys for coming to the table, and I'll see you all next time.